Hi there, I'm Jill Chivers from shopyourwardrobe.com.
And I'm Imogen Lamport from Inside Out Style.
And we've talked before about self-care and self-kindness, and we thought we'd pick that up in a dedicated video because it's such an important concept when it comes to feeling good about yourself and feeling good about your life and being resourceful and the woman that you want to be, which I think is a really interesting touchstone. It's a touchstone I increasingly use. Is this something that's taking me closer to being the woman I want to be or further away from it? And self-care really can be a bedrock piece of the puzzle when it comes to being your best self.
And I think it's something that's really important for women to think about. Now, particularly in many ways, mothers, I think, tend to get lost in their children and everybody else's needs in the family.
Yeah.
And they start losing themselves. And I see this because I have clients come to me who go, I don't know where to shop, I don't know what I like, I don't know who I am anymore. And it's a process of rediscovery.
Yeah.
And self-care is one of those elements that, you know, that if you have in there as part of who you are, you know, it's a good thing to have. Often I think, particularly when women have kids and when their children are young and all their time is dedicated to those children,
Yes.
that they feel like they're being selfish.
Yes.
And I think self-care is not selfish.
In fact, it's almost at the opposite end of the scale.
Yes.
It comes from the perspective to be my best in service to those I need to be in service to or provide care to, children in this instance. Then I need to refill my tank on a regular basis. It's not just something that I do, you know, randomly or when I'm absolutely at my wit's end. And it also doesn't have to be self-indulgent. I think that's also where sometimes I think we think self-care is self-indulgence, and they are not interchangeable terms.
But sometimes self-care may be actually being a little self-indulgent at times.
It might. It doesn't always have to be that though, but and I think that's the point. And for you to assess, to say, I need a bit of self-indulgence. I need the bathtub with the wine and the chocolate and however many sensory experiences I can layer into that. I think that's great if that's what you need at that moment in time, but it doesn't always have to take that form.
No. And I think too, when we're thinking about self-care, there's those elements that, you know, as a friend of mine who ended up, you know, going a little bit nuts, and her psychiatrist said, if you're broken, the family's broken.
Right.
And so it is that sort of thing where you're going, you know, it's okay to take, and this is where, you know, 5 minutes for yourself every morning getting ready.
Yeah.
This is where often women say, I don't have the time to do this. I don't have the time to dress. I don't have the time to put on makeup. I don't have the time to do my hair. As if their children will die if they're not just focusing on them every single moment of the day that they're awake. And I think that's actually really negative. It's a negative message for those children too. Because it's like, well, does the sun revolve around me?
Right.
And I think that is probably sometimes where some of those self-esteem issues come in, and then they get terribly disheartened down the track when they discover that maybe the sun doesn't revolve around them. And so regularly taking, you know, small amounts of time for self-care is super important for women. And so, you know, Jill's got lots of ideas on ways you can do that. It's not too self-indulgent.
No, I've written a series of posts about that. Imogen might put a link to some of those. But one of the things that I think is important to think about is what kind of self-care do I need? Because not all self-care is created equal. It doesn't all look the same. Personally, I get bored in a bath. I can't sit in a bath for longer than 5 minutes without going, can I get out now? You know, whereas for you, this is a fun thing to do and refills your tank.
Yes.
And one of the ways to think about self-care is from an energy continuum. And one is the soft energy of I need to slow down, I need rest, I need rejuvenation.
Yes.
Another form of self-care can be at the other end of that energy spectrum, which is I need more stimulation. I need to...
But a different kind of stimulation. I think that's where, you know, there's that, if I'm already doing a lot of busy stuff, it's actually going, no, I need to step completely away from that and find a completely different stimulation.
A friend of mine, married, 3 children, high corporate job, and she started to learn French on Tuesday nights. And it is a form of self-care for her because she finds it really stimulating. It's another language. She may or may not ever go to France or put that skill into use. But for her, it's a way of refilling her tank. It's something she does on her own. It hits so many of the important things for her. And I applaud that kind of thing. There's a whole set of things that are in place with it. A recognition that she needed it. And then finding out about it and actually doing it. And
telling the family that she needs Tuesday nights off because she's actually going to learn another language.
Yeah, and personally, I think it's a wonderful thing for her to teach her daughter that it's okay to have these things for yourself. And so, thinking about that, if it is more high energy that you need, what kind of high energy? Do you need to learn a new skill? Do you want to go to a course? Do you want to go to a weekend workshop? Do you want to treat where you live as though you're a tourist and discover things about it? I mean, how many places do we have around us that we never go to unless people are visiting? So there's numerous ways to think about that as well.
Yes. So there's lots of different things when you're thinking about self-care. Yes, there is that treating yourself a bit nicely, but your treating yourself a bit nicely will be different from somebody else's. And what interests you. And I also think we get stuck in this busyness of life where we do the same thing over and over again. It's that kind of the rat on the treadmill, isn't it? And so it's that stepping out, so that like I'm going to go and visit the gallery and see a show that's on, or I'm going to go and watch a concert, or I'm going to take those times out, because those experiences are often those ones that we get great memories from. We don't remember that day-to-day treadmill, but we do then go, oh, I did that thing. And that's often when we travel, when we go on holiday, we do these things. Exactly. And that's part of the rejuvenation of a holiday, is actually getting outside of the everyday mundaneness of our lives.
And self-care really should be a resetting, which is what a holiday does, is it resets us, and that's what self-care should do. And it needn't cost a lot of money, and in a lot of cases it needn't cost any money. When you think about, and maybe that's part of the fun, is what can I do that is low or no cost that's going to be really enjoyable to me.
So like I often quite like to, I do enjoy a bath, but I'm about half an hour, and it's because it gives me a chance to read a magazine or something that I find is a little indulgent.
Now it all comes out.
But then it'll even be, I love going for a walk in nature. And so sometimes just that walk in nature that's a piece of self-care.
Exactly.
It doesn't need to cost anything. I mean, yes, I like to go to the gallery, but there's a lot of free stuff on at galleries. There's so many things on. If you look in your local paper or wherever, you'll find there's all sorts of things on for free, that sometimes adding that bit of variety. So we have a need for variety in our life. And so sometimes I think that self-care can come in that form of variety.
Absolutely.
Just be different. Try some different things.
Yeah, absolutely. So think about in your life, where you need more self-care, when you can include that self-care, and make it a priority, because when you are filling up your own tank, then you are more able to give to others in a way that you need to in your life. And I think it is a wonderful gift to give yourself.